Hi, it's August 27th. This video is for IT 380, Educational Software Design, which will be running in fall 2020. The first day of class is officially September 2nd, the Tuesday, but we'll be getting up all the materials since this is an online class that either that Sunday or that Monday. So I just published the course. You should have gotten a notification in your email that the Canvas course is up. I'm just going to go through the starting the skeletal structure of the Canvas course, the syllabus, how this class is going to work over the semester, and just give you some starting advice before we start the first week of work and lecture videos. The reason I'm recording this video now, Thursday, before the semester starts, is that as you can see, there's two instructors. There's the digital design instructor, Jessica Ross, and the programming instructor over in IT, myself, Eric Nersessian. Our email addresses are up. So I think most of you are previous students that know that Jessica's my wife, and actually she's going to be giving birth soon, and today actually might be the day. So we're kind of rushing to get at least the starting part of the course together so that you're kind of oriented, because we're hoping to get all the lecture videos for Sprint 1 up, and actually we were working on our next educational technology, this wildlife data collection tool that I'll cover in a little bit. But since it looks like the baby might be coming early, I'm just getting the skeleton up of the Canvas course and the syllabus, kind of the meta documents, so that we can orient you and we don't know when we'll be settled back with the newborn. But in either case, I listed the TA, Gav. She's TAing. I have 3 sections of IT 2.1. She's TAing there, and this weekly web conference time for lab help. That's Monday evenings and Tuesday, Wednesday afternoons. Is when we're hosting lab time for all the IT 201s with Gav. So I listed these times as well. We'll be up on WebEx. I'll host additional times if none of these work. So if Monday 6 to 7:30 and Tuesday 2:30 to 4 and Wednesday 12:30 to 2 don't work for you, then email me and suggest some days and times that do work. And for those of you that have scheduling conflicts, we'll create an additional lab time. But to begin with, this is an online class. We will be requiring you to watch your lecture videos, do your activities and your weekly project work, and then you come to lab time when you get stuck, either with the concepts that you're learning or with the implementation on either the design or the programming side. So I'll cover the syllabus in a moment. Here's the link for these weekly web conferences. So you're gonna have to get comfortable with WebEx and how to share your screen. And some issues with Unity or with design we can solve with screen sharing. And for some more complicated Unity issues, I'll show you how to create Unity packages and send them to me to easy open up your project. It's basically like a compression file, zip file. So in either case, here's the download link for Unity. We're going to be using the latest LTS version. So when you click on the link, you'll come here, long-term support, or do 2019. So 2019.4.9F1. So try to just freeze that for the semester. If we're all using the same version of Unity, it just makes a lot of things easier. Here's a general help forum. And for general help questions with the class, and a technical help forum where you need issues with your project. So besides emailing us, besides coming to lab times, and additional one-on-one time as needed, post up in these forums so that other students can help you as well. And if you click here on the syllabus, that will bring you to here. It's a PDF doc that we've generated for the class. So a lot of the same information, some recommended textbooks that we'll be pulling our lectures from. The projects, so actually, you know what? I should have probably put up a link to my website. So the projects that we'll be following is educational technology. So what we've been doing here at NJT's Mixer Lab, I'll be reviewing the efforts, the cycling of research, design, development we went through with previous projects. In this case here, Espresso, which was a virtual reality training tool for binary counting. We also did an augmented reality version with a book. In these videos here, you can click and learn more. Here's what the book looks like. And here's someone using the book. Oh, and here's the bubble sort trainer. So this was kind of like our level 2. And so all these went through user studies to see if they actually had an impact on the learning, the knowledge gained on the subjects. So I'll cover like our processes that we went through with how to think about who our audience is, what the point of the learning objectives, what the software objectives are, and how we ended up building this stuff. But we currently have a new project that we're working on, this CANID project, this wildlife research project that we have a few other researchers involved. And we were going to actually, it's in a completely like new phase, the first cycle that you'll be going through of research, design, and prototyping. And we'll see how far we can get. You know, the pregnancy came a little early, but we were going to actually cycle through the project before you and actually do it live, talk about previous projects and work on a project as you're working on a project. So the point is that you're going to be doing software design and engineering of a piece of software. It will not be augmented or virtual reality. We don't have access to, you know, a lot of hardware since this is a remote class, so we have all the issues of running in a COVID pandemic. So you will be doing WebGL builds on itch.io. And I'm going to put up my link. So this is a great way. I got a link to some of the stuff I've built. But for example, this is the bubble sort trainer that was built. The exact same graphics. It's just not in virtual reality. It's just been adjusted to work on a monitor and with 3D graphics. So you can see that it's very easy to test and share and give feedback and play test and all that great stuff of iteration that you're going to need on your projects. And so you'll be doing WebGL builds too. And I'll walk you through the whole thing. I assume you have just came from like IT 2.1 and just a very basic idea of interaction design and C# programming. And so we'll slowly move through these major cycles of building a small prototype, a small piece of educational technology, and how to build all the portfolio pieces around it. In this case, how to build a design doc, how to build a walkthrough video, explaining the app, and how to put a build up on itch.io. And you'll piece everything together through Canvas, but Canvas Post functions just like a web page. It's text and images and links. And so after the class, you know, you can continue refining on the project because you just keep cycling. These cycles of software refinement just, you know, never end. And you can use these projects, these pieces of prototypes in your portfolio when you graduate. So you can read through here. This is the description on the catalog, NJT's catalog. Here's a more refined description from the instructors. So we're going to focus on the MVC design pattern or model view controller, or basically the view, the user interface to the user, the controller, the interactions that the user is allowed to do through the input device, in this case usually a keyboard, a mouse, or a touch screen, and the model or the simulation of the data simulation in the backend that's meant to simulate some type of real-world learning experience. So in the CANID project, it was a ecological zone on how human development impacts wildlife populations. In Espresso, it was math and computer science topics that a visualization can help learn. So we'd be moving through the major phases, learning about UX, our user experience, and UI, our user interface. All these are components of HCI, or the human computer interaction field. But we'll be specifically looking at learning science and educational psychology and how software can aid the learning process with users. So here we are. This is a nice diagram of the class. So Mary said we have 3 months, and we have 3 major parts of the class. So we have 15 weeks here, 3 major sprints with a pause in between each. And we're going to learn and implement a research phase of the cycle, a design phase of the cycle, and a prototype phase of the cycle. So every week has an aspect of lecture, learn something new, practice what you just learned, and then do part of your project work, so that over the course of 4 or 5 weeks, you have completed that project, which is part of this larger educational technology prototype. So each of these, actually, we're going to be working within these UX principles called double diamonds. So you can think of a diamond as starts at its a small point, opens up to its widest point, and then closes back down. So we're going to be working in a sprint or an agile workflow, and we're going to open up one diamond, explore it, close it, or choose our answer for it, and then that makes a decision for the next diamond. So we have a UX research diamond. We must start and then explore a problem space. That's where the diamond is the largest, 2 weeks into the sprint. And then we pick a problem and define it that we wish to offer a solution to with software. And that closes the first diamond. And that means you'll have a deliverable at the middle of the diamond and a deliverable at the end of the diamond. So we're calling it a midpoint and an endpoint. So basically, every 2 weeks, you must deliver something for feedback from the instructor and from your fellow students. So we start the class here. 2 weeks in, you must deliver your midpoint of the research diamond, which means you've explored the problem space. You haven't picked the problem, but you're going to present your problem space and get feedback from everybody. Then 2 weeks later, or technically 3, I basically leave you alone for an extra week to complete your sprint. So each of these 4 weeks are heavy with lecture and it's a kind of self-guided work. We help you guide through the part of the project. And then the 5th week, we leave you alone and do extra work to just complete the project. You're not going to learn anything more. Just here's an extra week. If you're done early, that's great. Go off and do something else. You have extra time with other classes, or you get to finesse your project more. But a lot of students need that extra week. And so here we open the diamond, the largest problem space midpoint, and then we close it here in that 5th week. We're going to close the research diamond. We're going to pick our problem. We're going to define it really well and present it to the rest of the class. By presenting, I mean forum posts. And you guys are going to provide feedback on each other, constructive criticism only. Obviously, you're going to find flaws to point out. Nobody makes something perfect. We're learning how to make solid research, design, and prototyping efforts. And so you need to provide advice when you critique other people's work. And by critique, we mean you're going to write replies on the other students' forum postings. And this is all part of your grade. So as we close the research diamond here, we move into the design diamond. So now that we have a well-defined problem, we move into the redesign phase, and we can start to explore the solution space. So 2 weeks in, here at the end of week 7, you will have a midpoint drop at the design diamond, and you will present your solution space, all the possible solutions that you're thinking of. We will give you feedback that will help guide you. The other students will give feedback as well. And then 3 weeks later, here at the end of week 10, you will close your design diamond, present your endpoint deliverable, present your solution back to the instructor in the class for feedback. That will guide you into the 3rd, in this case, in this class, the final diamond of prototyping, of actually building the digital prototype for just an aspect, that small problem. So you're going to be taught about interaction design. You're going to be taught about systems and simulations, and we're going to prototype something and build a WebGL build. So halfway through, right, we're going to explore your prototype, and then all the way at the end, we'll close out, and you'll have your final presentation, again, through a Canvas forum posting. Now, your final presentation will consist of a completed, refined design doc. We'll have a completed, refined walkthrough video using a screen capture software just like I'm using right now, which is free. It's called OBS Studio. And you'll have completed your prototype and placed it up on itch.io for others to play test and give feedback on. And all of this is exactly how I build my portfolio sites here. And it's exactly how you're going to build your portfolio sites as you're leaving school. So all this is just great experience and exposure on how to communicate on these software projects you've been working on. So the other thing that I wanted to mention was that throughout this whole 15 weeks of the class, there's two major parts to the class. Talking about design, which is really talking about UX, research, and design, and then talking about the programming or the production aspect of it. So that's why the class is split into two for every week. You have a design part and a programming part. And so I start programming lectures right off the bat on week 1 so that you are well prepped and well guided on what is expected of you when you complete the prototype. In fact, at the end of each sprint, you'll have a deliverable for a design aspect and for the programming aspect. So that basically we're breaking down 3 months of work, where at the end of 3 months, you'll have a completed design doc, a completed walkthrough video, and a completed prototype. But we've been working on it, all of it, for 3 months. So it's not going to be this massive rush and burden at the end of the semester. So at the end of the research diamond, you'll have half of your design doc completed, and you'll have prototyped your introduction, which will be like a slideshow. You'll have a splash screen, and we'll do a little bit of a slideshow through your UX research, explaining the point of your educational technology to the user. And so you'll have a WebGL build of just your little slideshow introduction, which allows me to cover user interface in the Unity. And then at the end of the second diamond, at the end of the design diamond, you'll have finished your second half of the design document. And you will have prototyped out your tutorial part of your app or your prototype. And the tutorial part instructs the user how to interact with your piece of software, what to expect from your piece of software. So it's really the second major part of your prototype. First, you have an introduction. You introduce the user to your piece of software. And then you give them a tutorial on how to interact with your piece of software. And then the last part is you'll have refined your design doc and completed it. And then you'll create your walkthrough video. Those will be your deliverables on the design side for the sprint 3. And you'll have completed your prototype on the programming side with just the first level. So all the way at the end, when you present your prototype and a user loads it up in itch.io, they'll have an introduction. They'll understand what this piece of software is about, which will follow into a tutorial, which will instruct them how to use your piece of software, which will then guide them into level 1. So one small part of your software, just the first level of whatever the interactions are, changing whatever the backend simulation is. Remember, we're using an MVC, the model view controller. So you can kind of think of the introduction as the view. We're working on the user interface. We're getting the view together. You could think of the tutorial, or designing the interactions and teaching the interactions to the user, as the controller aspect. And you could think of level 1 as finishing the simulation part, connecting the interactions to the simulation. So we have systems integration and we have a simulation backend or the model. So we'll do the view, then the controller, then the model. And so every week, here are some brief topics or some themes that we'll be covering. All right. Research sprint 1. There'll be a midpoint drop, and then an endpoint drop. Design, sprint 2, midpoint drop, and then an endpoint drop. Then prototype for sprint 3, midpoint drop, endpoint drop. All right. And so when week 5, 10, and 15, 5, 10, 15, we can call them as catch-up weeks. Like, I'm not going to give you any new material, but you're expected to just spend that week finishing up the sprint. Now, the rationale for that is that we have no late submissions. You either drop at a point or you don't. You don't drop, you don't get a grade. So you have enough grades. There's going to be 7 grades. There's no exam, but each sprint has 2 grades, a midpoint and an endpoint, and then what we think of your final presentation and your communication throughout since feedback's so important, our 7th grade is really on that final presentation and how well you've been giving feedback to others, how regular you've been in class. So you have 7 grades, 2 of them per sprint at 15% each, and then the last one at 10%. So since feedback is so vital, you have no choice, but you have to deliver. So when this midpoint comes at the end of week 2, you drop it, and we have feedback the day after, and that's it. We all move on. At the end point of your sprint, you just drop it, and we move on. We get feedback, and we move on. The problem is, I found with these sprint-style classes, when students who stay behind or get behind, they stay behind the whole semester. So students who, for whatever reason, start getting behind in class, they're focusing on another class, or they have some personal issue, or they just had some time management issue. We move on to sprint 2 and they stay on sprint 1. We move on to sprint 3 and they stay in sprint 2, and they get a poor class grade. So I nipped that in the bud by saying, if you're late, then you're just going to have to move on. So we just move on with the rest of our lives, and you're just going to have to get a low grade for that section. So submit whatever you have. It is far better to have a partial submittal than no submittal. So all of these forums down here. So here we start sprint 1. Here's your little assignment. I need to put up all the lecture videos and our sample deliverables. I'll make sure that we have a sample deliverable for all the midpoints and endpoints. But if you notice midpoint deliverable, there is a terminating due date on this. So if I go in here, here it is. It'll be open for a whole week, but I close stuff at Sunday at 11:59 p.m. and we start again fresh Monday. So if you notice that our midpoint drop opens up Monday at midnight and then closes that following Sunday at 11:59 p.m. and there's no late submissions. The only excuse will have to be a letter from the dean of students. So if you have a serious issue, go to the dean of students, get a letter, and I'll work with you. Otherwise, this midpoint drop happens. I'll make it very clear as this is open during this week and it's starting to close, and you better just submit something. Just move on. Otherwise, you just kind of stay in a point. And it helps people just make decisions. Like, it's okay if you make some poor decisions. You can recover along the way. And you're learning how to design and build software. Like, you're going to have to learn by failure. Any good trade, there's a lot of stumbling that happens, and these are great learning points. Failure is good. Failure you can learn from, and you can do better next time. So it's okay. Just deliver something, especially at the end points. Just drop it. This is where I'm at. Oh, well, I better just drop it. And you'll get a much better grade than if you delivered nothing. And you'll get the opportunity to give feedback. Because that's the other thing. You do late submissions. I can't go ask the class to go give you feedback when you're delivering late. I have to be very regular with the class and just respect everyone's time in general. So, for example, a sprint 1 endpoint deliverable Sunday, October 4th at 11:59 p.m. And then I'll put up like another thing like you must complete feedback by Monday at midnight or something. Actually, if I go down here, our final deliverable, sprint 3, end of Sunday at December 13th at 11:59 p.m. and that Monday is reading day 2. So nobody has anything going on December 14th. So they have a time where everyone can come on and review each other, and we can meet in WebEx, even though we're just kind of reviewing forum posts. And we can kind of have a talk and see, have a general discussion of what went right, what went wrong, how to improve the class, and so on, and wish everyone a happy break. So as I come back up here, start sprint 1, UX research. Here's the assignment. Okay, it's great. At the end of week 2, which has really been 2 weeks, you do your midpoint drop. Then you get 3 weeks to do your endpoint drop because you get that extra week at the end. Then we start design. Give your assignment 2 weeks and do your midpoint. 3 weeks later, do your endpoint for sprint 2. Then we move into prototyping officially. Even though I've been covering prototyping the whole semester. Get your assignment 2 weeks later, get your midpoint drop. 3 weeks later, do your endpoint, and we all just meet and we are done. So I will have to go through and put down reminders for feedback at each and every midpoint and endpoint drop. So I know it's strict time wise, but it's for your own benefit, and we just march through. I made sure that the timing of content is well suited for each week. I'm not going to overload you, and I give you a free week every sprint. But with that benefit, you have the drawback that there is no late fees. I really need you to drop something. Everybody gives feedback, and we just move on with our lives. So it's okay. You can make a mistake here and there, and you'll still get a good grade in class. So I covered the dual nature of the curriculum. We'll always be covering something aspect of research and design and some aspect of programming every week. You can read more about this. I've covered a lot of it already in my talking. Our weekly schedule. Yep, I covered how we start with lecture and practice the knowledge we learned from lecture. Then we have lab time. Just come on in. I've already given you those times when they're going to be. Let me know if you need different times. And then there's the independent work. Here's what you should get done suggested for this week, so that once a week for 4 weeks, or 5 weeks, you contribute something to your sprint. And so we have 3 weeks or 3 hours a week of kind of lecture, practice, lab time, and then 3 hours of you working on your project every week. So here's some suggested topics that we're going to cover throughout the semester to give you all the skill sets and knowledge background that you need to understand educational technology. This is just a listing of the important dates for the semesters, like when we start, when we end, what holidays, when the withdrawal dates are, and the final exams. So class policies. Yes, peer mentoring. Talk with your friends. Meet online. You can use Google Hangouts. You can use WebEx. You can use phone calls, what have you. And, software is a collaborative experience in learning programming and design. You just need to talk through a lot of stuff. But at the end of the day, you must do all your own work. And if there is any work that you're borrowing for somebody from some reason, in either your research, design, or programming, you must state that source and that it happened. We cannot allow cheating to happen, and we have to be stricter even in an online setting. So definitely work together, learn from each other, but at the end of the day, do your own work. Attendance is optional because class time is lab time. So all the lectures you must do, all the project work and activities you must do. Then coming into lab to either have like a structured work time or to get actually direct guidance from the instructors, that's optional, and we will be there as much as you need. And again, we will provide academic warnings. We'll provide regular grades. We'll let you know when you're not doing well. And just stay regular in this class, and you'll do fine because of the amount of feedback and iteration that's needed on development. Back up your own projects. Use Google Drive. Use GitHub. Use something. just make sure you back up. Just I lost my project or Unity corrupted my stuff is just not an excuse at this stage in your academic career. So as I was saying, that we will have 7 grades. 6 of the grades have to deal with the sprints. So 2 grades per sprint for 6 grades. This should really be the first grade. First grade is given halfway through the sprint, and second grade at the end of the sprint. And at the end of any type of deliverable, halfway and endpoint, you must give feedback. The feedback will consist of you giving constructive feedback, point something out, and give solid advice about it to 3 other students. And so we'll do some sample feedback, but it's at least a paragraph. It has to have a substance to it. Let's see. So yeah, I talked about the diamonds, or that when you open it, it's at the widest part. So 2 weeks in, you've explored the space, present the space. 3 weeks later, you close it out and you present your solution or your idea, or whatever it is that the whole diamond was about. So presentation and communication is huge in this class, as it is in industry. So spend your time explaining your ideas well with words and with images. And so each sprint's 30% of the class grade. Each deliverable is 15%. So midpoint 15, endpoint 15, 3 sprints, that's 90%. And feedback is so vital that of the 15, only 10% is your deliverable, and the 5% is how good was your feedback to the other students. Remaining 10% is dealing with class participation and your final class presentation. So how strong is your project that you gave to the instructors at the end of the class, and how well was your feedback at all points during the class? And then the instructors will figure out what they want to give that 10% as. And no late work at all. So I'm very lenient with this extra week every time, but you just got to wrap it up. You'll be getting announcements, emails from me, buddy up with some partners in class so you guys can stay regular and just be on Canvas. There's also the Canvas app on the phone that can send updates. So just stay regular with online classes. And here's some grading factors that we look at when we'll grade your stuff and your feedback, your deliverables and feedback. How intellectually are you absorbing the material? How well is your communication? How strong is your independent thinking and problem solving? And how well professional are you acting in class with your feedback? NJT's grading scheme, student accommodations for disabilities. You can read through this if you need it. And I'll just repeat that if you have an official problem for this semester, there's CCAPs for advice, and go to the Dean of Students for a letter. As long as I have a letter from the Dean of Students, I will work with you. All right, so that is everything I wanted to cover for right now. We're getting a weekly schedule together. It's looking really good, and we have our sample projects. But again, let me get through this weekend and get, at least with this video and with the Canvas basics up, at least you should have a good idea of what to expect for this class. And also, we scope small. Like when you build a prototype, it's going to be very small and manageable because there's so many rabbit holes that you can fall down in the project to fall apart. So don't be overwhelmed if this sounds like an intensive class. We purposely scope the research phase and the design phase and the prototype phase to very, very small ideas so that you can actually execute on them well. And again, as long as you're regular and you do your weekly work and you come to lab time and you're there and present every week, you'll do completely fine in class. All right. So anyway, I'm going to end this, and email me if you have questions before the semester starts. Otherwise, welcome to educational software design, and we'll get more stuff up for the first week of class. Thank you.